think about those huge projects, that new building going up or the latest phone launch. What's that hidden force making sure they actually happen?
Right, that they don't just fall apart.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into project controlling. That's the discipline that really keeps things on track, both financially and, well, schedule-wise.
It really is the backbone, isn't it? I mean, without good project controlling, you're basically flying blind. No map, no fuel gauge.
Couldn't have said it better. So our mission today is to unpack what project controlling is all about. We've got some great material, actual interview questions for project controllers and the kind of answers they look for.
Ah, okay. So real-world insights.
Exactly. And whether you're like deep in project management yourself or just curious how complex things get done, I think you'll find this interesting.
Yeah, there's probably more to it than people think.
For sure. We'll uncover some key skills, maybe some non-obvious ones, the real challenges they face day to day. It's definitely more than just staring at spreadsheets.
Definitely more strategic.
Right, so let's jump in. A really fundamental interview question they always ask is, what experience do you have in project controlling?
Yeah, that's a classic opener. And it's crucial for interviewers. They want to gauge, have you actually done this?
Not just read about it.
Exactly. Have you dealt with the messy reality of projects? What kind of projects? Big ones, small ones? What processes, what tools are you familiar with?
Right, have you been in the trenches? The example answer we looked at is pretty solid. It mentions like over 10 years experience, different project types,
Mm-hmm. Variety is good.
and it hits all the key areas.
Yeah.
Budgeting, scheduling, risk, quality control. Why is that breadth so important? It's not just ticking boxes, is it?
No, not at all. It's because everything in a project is, well, connected. A scheduled delay hits the budget. A scope change introduces new risks, you see.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
So someone who's seen the whole picture, who understands those links, they're way better equipped to spot problems early. They're not just looking at one piece in isolation.
And the answer also mentions software proficiency. That's pretty much essential now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Table stakes, really. You have to be comfortable with the tools.
And then the kicker. A proven track record of delivering projects on time and within budget.
Well, yeah, that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? That's what everyone wants to see. Results.
So the takeaway here is it's about that mix of hands-on varied experience and knowing the tools of the trade, not just theory.
Precisely. Okay, so what's next?
Let's move on to skills. Another big question. What do you think are the key skills for a successful project controller? What's the interviewer trying to get at here?
They want to know if you understand that it's more than just numbers. Do you get the human side, the strategic side? Do you know what actually drives success on the ground?
Okay, the example answer lists 5 key skills. First one, effective communication with everyone involved. Now that sounds obvious, but how does a controller use communication, like strategically?
That's a good way to put it. It's not just status updates. It's tailoring the message, knowing who needs what level of detail.
Right, don't overwhelm the sponsor, maybe give the team more technical stuff.
Exactly. And it's about flagging risks early, but in a way that gets people to act, not just panic. It's about building transparency, making sure everyone understands the why.
Okay, that makes sense. Second skill, developing and maintaining strong working relationships. Sound a bit
Yeah.
soft.
Yeah.
How crucial is that, right?
Oh, it's fundamental. Think about it. Controllers often have to share bad news, right? Budget problems, schedule slips.
Yeah, not fun conversations.
Not at all. But if you've built trust, if people respect you and know you're working towards the same goal, those difficult conversations go much smoother. They're more likely to be productive.
Okay, I see. Third skill, early risk identification and mitigation planning. Is this like fortune telling?
Not quite. It's more about having a really good radar for what could go wrong, based on experience, based on the project specifics.
So anticipating issues.
Yes, anticipating and then working with the team before it happens to figure out, okay, how do we avoid this? Or if we can't avoid it, how do we lessen the impact? It's proactive.
Got it. Fourth is tracking progress and reporting variances. This feels like the core job, the bread and butter.
It definitely is. Monitoring project health. Are we on track? Are we on budget? If not, why not? What are the deviations? This gives you the hard data for making decisions.
Right, the objective facts.
Yeah.
And the last one listed is proactive problem solving. So it's not just pointing out the fire, right?
Exactly. A good controller doesn't just say, hey, we're over budget. They work with the project manager, with the team to ask, okay, why are we over budget and what can we do about it? They're part of this solution.
So tying it all together, it sounds like those softer skills, The communication, the relationships are just as vital as the hardcore analysis.
Absolutely. You need both. They feed into each other.
Really interesting. Okay, let's pivot to the tough stuff. Challenges. Interviewers often ask, what do you think are the biggest challenges faced by project controllers? Why ask that?
Well, it checks for realism. Do they understand this job isn't easy? Have they actually faced these hurdles? And maybe, how did they handle them? It shows their problem-solving approach under pressure.
Makes sense. The example lists 5 big ones. First, ensuring data accuracy and completeness, especially with loads of data everywhere. Why is that such a pain?
Oh, it's constant. You've got data coming from different teams, maybe different software, sometimes manual inputs.
Different formats.
Exactly. And the controller has to somehow pull it all together, make sense of it, ensure it's reliable. Because if your data is wrong, your whole picture is wrong. Bad decisions follow.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. Okay, second challenge, keeping up with constant project changes. Schedule, budget, scope, feels like nothing ever stays the same.
Huh. Often it doesn't. Projects are dynamic. Things happen. Priorities shift. So the controller needs to be incredibly adaptable, constantly updating forecasts, reanalyzing. You can't be rigid.
Right. Third is managing risks, project risks, organizational risks. We talked about identifying them. But what's hard about the managing part?
Well, managing means actively tracking them, right? Seeing if they're becoming more or less likely, implementing the mitigation plans you developed, communicating about them. It's an ongoing process, not a one-off task. And it often involves coordinating with different departments.
Okay. Fourth, communicating with diverse stakeholders, people with potentially conflicting interests. Sounds like walking a tightrope.
It really can be. You might have the sponsor wanting speed, the tech lead worried about quality, the finance team focused on cost.
All pulling in different directions.
Sometimes, yeah. And the controller needs to talk to all of them, understand their perspective, and present the information in a way that makes sense for them while still being objective. It requires real diplomatic skill sometimes.
I can imagine. And finally, managing expectations, especially when things aren't going perfectly.
Yes. This is huge. You can't just spring bad news on people. It requires transparency, honesty, explaining why there's a delay or an overrun, and crucially, what's being done about it. Managing expectations proactively saves a lot of grief later.
Wow, yeah. These challenges really paint a picture of a demanding, dynamic role.
They certainly do.
So given all that complexity, how do they stay on top of it all? Next question. How do you stay organized and efficient in your work? What's an interviewer looking for here?
They want to see practical strategies. Does this person have a system? Are they self-aware about how they manage their time and tasks under pressure? It shows professionalism.
The example mentions a tidy workspace. Seems basic, but maybe important.
It can be. Less clutter, less distraction. A clear space can help foster a clear mind, make it easier to focus and find things. Simple, but effective for some people.
Then it talks about using tools, project management software, task lists, calendars, leveraging technology.
Absolutely essential. You can't juggle all the moving parts of multiple projects without good tools. They help track deadlines, manage tasks, keep everything visible.
And interestingly, it also mentions taking breaks to avoid burnout. That feels very relevant today.
It really is. You can't be efficient if you're exhausted or stressed. Working smart includes knowing when to step back, recharge. It actually improves productivity and decision-making in the long run. Shows good self-management.
Good point. Okay, sticking with tools for a sec. What software platforms or tools do you use to help you in your work? Why drill down on the specific tools?
It's a practical check. Do they know the standard tools used in the industry? Can they hit the ground running? It assesses their actual hands-on technical capability.
Right. The answer lists a few categories. First, project management software like Microsoft Project, Primavera.
The big ones. Yeah, those are industry standards for planning, scheduling, resource tracking. Most organizations doing serious project work will use something like these. Experience here is often expected.
Then, accounting software, QuickBooks, Sage. So they need financial software skills too.
Oh, definitely. They're dealing with budgets, costs, financial reports all the time. They need to be comfortable navigating that software and understanding the financial data.
Okay. Document management, SharePoint, Google Docs for keeping track of everything.
Crucial. Projects generate tons of documents. You need a system for organizing them, controlling versions, making sure the team can access the latest info easily.
And then things like task management, Trello, Asana, and time tracking, Toggle, Harvest. More focused on team and individual workflow.
Exactly. These help break down work, manage day-to-day tasks, see who's doing what, and track how time is being spent. all valuable data for the controller to understand resource use and progress. A good controller probably uses a mix of these.
Makes sense. Now, shifting back to people, projects are all about collaboration. So, how do you develop and maintain good working relationships with project stakeholders? That seems critical. What are they trying to learn about people skills here?
They want to know how you build that rapport we talked about earlier. How do you foster collaboration? How do you communicate effectively with all those different people who care about the project? Interpersonal skills are absolutely key.
The answer mentions effective and efficient communication. Efficiency is an interesting angle.
Yeah, stakeholders are busy. They don't want long, rambling emails. They need clear, concise updates that get straight to the point. Respecting their time builds credibility. Efficiency is part of effectiveness here.
Okay, second point, building trust through honesty and reliability. Sounds like relationship 101.
It is. It's the foundation. People need to trust that the information you give them is accurate, even if it's bad news. They need to know you'll do what you say you'll do. Without trust, collaboration just breaks down.
True. And third, being a good listener. Understanding stakeholder needs. That's more than just, like, not interrupting, right?
Oh, much more. It's active listening, paying attention to what's said, what's not said, trying to understand the underlying concerns or priorities. If you truly get where they're coming from, you can communicate better, anticipate issues, and build much stronger relationships. It really shows project control isn't just about data, it's very people-centric.
Yeah, that's becoming really clear. But even with good relationships, sometimes things go wrong. Conflict happens. So, how do you handle conflict within a project team? That's a tough behavioral question. What are they looking for?
They want to see your approach to navigating difficult situations. Can you help resolve disagreements constructively? Conflict can totally derail a project if it's not handled well.
The example answer starts with trying to avoid conflict through clear communication and expectations. Prevention is better than cure.
Absolutely. A lot of conflict comes from misunderstandings about roles or goals or deadlines. If you set clear expectations up front, you prevent a lot of potential friction.
But if conflict does happen, the next step is resolving it quickly. Mediation, decision-making, acting fast seems important.
Yes, because simmering conflict just poisons the atmosphere and kills productivity. The controller, being maybe a bit more neutral, can sometimes help facilitate a discussion, find common ground, or help the team get to a decision. Dealing with it promptly is key.
And then the last resort, removing a team member. Wow, that's serious.
It is. It's the nuclear option, really. Only considered if things are really bad, if someone is actively harming the project and nothing else has worked. The controller wouldn't usually make that call alone, but they might provide the objective data or perspective needed if it gets escalated to that point. It shows an understanding that sometimes tough decisions are needed for the project's sake.
Okay, let's zoom out again. Thinking about overall success, what do you think is the most important attribute of a successful project? What's the thinking here?
Well, the example answer circles back to effective communication. It really hammers home that theme, doesn't it? It's presented as the absolute cornerstone.
Yeah, the logic being without that constant, clear flow of information, everything else falls apart. People aren't aligned. They don't know what's happening. It's the glue.
Exactly.
The answer also mentions organization, attention to detail, adaptability is important too. So it's communication first. But these others support it.
Precisely. You need organization, but clear communication helps create that organization. They all work together, but communication seems foundational.
Building on that, what about the project manager? What do you think is the most important skill for a project manager? How does asking this help assess a controller candidate?
It shows if the controller understands the bigger picture, the ecosystem they work within. Do they appreciate what the PM needs to do well for the whole thing to succeed? It shows awareness of that crucial partnership.
And guess what the #1 skill highlighted for the PM is?
Let me guess. Effective communication.
Bingo. Again. Communicating with all stakeholders. Listening, understanding, articulating goals. It's central at all levels, it seems.
It really is. The PM is often the main communication hub, so their skill there is absolutely critical.
The answer also nods to risk management and organization for the PM. So it's about recognizing the leader's key strengths. And it highlights how the controller and manager need to work together, especially on keeping communication flowing.
Definitely. A good PM makes a controller's job much easier, and vice versa. It's a team effort.
Okay, back to the controller's own world. How do you prioritize and manage competing demands on your time? This sounds like daily reality for them. What's the interviewer trying to find out?
Basically, can you juggle? Can you handle the pressure when multiple things need attention now? Do you have strategies for managing your own workload effectively?
The example mentions clear communication of priorities first,
Hmm.
so letting people know what you're working on.
Yeah, managing expectations again. If stakeholders know what your priorities are and roughly when you can get to their request, it avoids confusion and frustration. Transparency helps.
Then, using organizational tools, lists, calendars, reminders, having a system.
You need a system, whatever works for you, but you need something to keep track of tasks, deadlines, follow-ups. Otherwise, things inevitably fall through the cracks.
And finally, being able to say no. That could be hard, can't it? But necessary.
Oh, absolutely necessary sometimes. You have to protect your time and focus on the most critical tasks. Saying no, respectfully, or negotiating timelines is a key skill for avoiding overload and maintaining quality. It shows good judgment.
Very true. Now, things change fast in this field. So, how do you stay up to date on developments in your field? Why does an interviewer care about this?
It shows commitment. Are you passionate about your profession? Are you proactive about learning? Or are you just doing the job? They want someone engaged and current.
The answer suggests reading industry stuff news, blogs, attending events like conferences or webinars, and networking. Pretty standard professional development stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It shows you're plugged into the industry, learning about new trends, tools, techniques. It indicates you're invested in staying effective.
Speaking of the wider industry, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing project management today? This takes a broader view.
Right. It assesses their understanding of the bigger picture, the macro trends affecting everyone in project work, tests their strategic thinking a bit.
The answer mentions increasing project complexity like global teams, more stakeholders,
Definitely a trend. Projects aren't getting simpler.
the need for speed, constant pressure to deliver faster,
Always pressure on timelines.
and the ever-changing nature of technology. These all sound very familiar.
They are the realities most project teams are grappling with, and controllers need to adapt to help manage projects within that context.
So how might technology itself change the controller role? Next question. How do you think new technologies will impact the role of the project controller in the future?
This looks ahead. Does the candidate have some foresight? How do they see tech shaping their job?
The example focuses heavily on AI and machine learning. The prediction is automation of routine tasks, data crunching, report generation,
Yeah, that seems likely, taking away some of the more repetitive, time-consuming stuff.
which could free them up for more strategic work, right?
Yep.
Like deeper risk analysis, finding opportunities, better mitigation planning.
Exactly. The idea is that technology handles the grunt work, allowing the controller to focus on higher value, more analytical and advisory activities, sort of elevating the role.
Interesting. What about how projects are managed right now? What do you think is the most important trend in project management today?
This checks awareness of current methodologies and approaches. Are they up on the latest ways of working?
The answer points strongly to the shift towards agile and flexible methods, Scrum, Kanban,
Yeah.
driven by that need for speed and adaptability we just talked about.
Yep. Agile is huge. It's all about iterative progress, responding to change quickly, close collaboration. It's a response to that fast-paced, complex environment. Understanding Agile is becoming pretty essential.
Okay, zooming out one last time to the organization level. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing organizations when implementing new projects?
This looks at the hurdles beyond the project team itself. What organizational factors make projects difficult?
The example gives 3 big ones. Scope creep. The project just keeps growing.
The classic killer.
Resource constraints, not enough people or money,
Always a battle.
and unrealistic expectations from stakeholders, setting impossible goals.
These are huge. Scope creep blows the budget and schedule, lack of resources strangles progress, and unrealistic expectations set everyone up for failure and disappointment. Controllers are often on the front lines trying to manage these.
When choosing how to run a project, what's key? What do you think is the most important factor to consider when choosing a project management methodology?
The answer here is nicely nuanced. It basically says there's no single right answer. It depends.
Depends on what?
On the project itself, its nature, size, complexity, on the resources you have, even on what the team is comfortable with. It's context dependent.
So no dogma. You pick the approach that fits the situation.
Exactly. Being flexible and choosing the right tool for the job rather than forcing everything into one box, that shows maturity.
Okay, last one, hitting the core financial aspect.
Mhm.
What do you think is the most important thing to remember when managing a project budget?
This goes right to the heart of financial control. Do they get the fundamentals?
The example gives 4 key reminders. 1. Really understand the scope and objectives first.
Absolutely. Can't budget if you don't know what you're building.
2. Work with the team to create a realistic budget.
Key for buy-in and accuracy.
3. Stick to the budget. Discipline.
Sounds simple, but crucial.
And 4. Regularly monitor and adjust as needed. Keep your eye on the ball.
Continuously. These are really the cornerstones. Get these right, and you've got a much better handle on the project's financial health. It highlights that discipline needed.
So, wow, we've covered a lot through these questions. Thinking about this deep dive, what are the main takeaways for you, our listener, about this project controller role?
Well, I think we've seen it's incredibly multifaceted, isn't it? You need the hard skills, finance, scheduling, tools, but also those really critical soft skills, communication, relationship building, problem solving.
Right, they're not just number crunchers, they're strategic partners.
Exactly. They're proactive, they anticipate issues, they communicate effectively, and they play a huge part in keeping projects from going off the rails.
Absolutely. And hopefully, understanding these different facets gives you, the listener, a better sense of what makes complex projects tick or why they sometimes fail. It's relevant knowledge, even if you're not directly in project management.
Definitely. So maybe here's something to think about. Consider a project, maybe one you were involved in, or just one you observed. How visible was the project control function? Or maybe how obvious was its absence?
Oh, good question.
And thinking about the skills we talked about, communication, risk awareness, organization, which ones seemed really strong in that project? Or which ones were maybe missing and causing problems?
That's some great food for thought. And hey, if this conversation about project controlling got you curious, maybe look into some of those agile methods we mentioned, like Scrum, or check out some of the software tools controllers rely on. There's always more to learn.